ההרצאה הראשונה תישא פרופסור סירן בורה, שהיא חוקרת עצמאית מאיזמיר, והיא תדון בתפיסת הלאומיות של אטאטורק והשלכותיה על יהודי טורקיה, מבט על המדיניות שחרגה מחזונו המקורי. I have the pleasure to introduce Professor Bora. Dr. Siren Bora graduated from Age University's Department of History and serves as a lecturer at the Institute of Atatürk Principles and History of Turkish Revolution between 1999 to 1993. She studied Hebrew at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. She received her PhD from Dokuz Eylul University on Jewish history of Izmir. She has published 11 books and numerous articles on Jewish history and continues researching the history of the Jews in Izmir and its surroundings areas. Professor Bora, please.
Thank you. Distinguished academic colleagues and distinguished guests, I greet you with respect. I would like to thank again the authorities of Dahan Center, Bora University, and my dear friend, Professor Atatürk, for honoring me by inviting me to conference. I will start my lecture with a statement of Atatürk. There are some words, they are often uttered, but very few of our intellectuals can grasp their true meaning and their true content. These words are excerpted from a speech Atatürk gave on nationalism during his visit to Istanbul on December 18, 1930. In Turkey, nationalism and Atatürk's nationalism, as Atatürk himself put it, are concepts that not everyone can. In fact, they have been transformed into a national taboo where every intellectual attribute a meaning to them and tries to interpret them according to their own understanding. This phenomenon is not only specific to 1930, it's also valid today. Therefore, it must be inevitable that those who fail to grasp the meaning of nationalism since the early years of the Republic will deviate from this understanding. I do not want to make repetitive presentation. For this reason, I will not talk about examples of double standard practices that evoke the distinction between faith and ethnicity, and especially the trace incidents of 1934 and the wild talks of 1942 and their unpleasant consequences, the traces they left in the memory of Turkish Jews and the disappointment they created. I will only try to evaluate Atatürk's understanding of nationalism and the events that took place in the context of this understanding from a different perspective, prefer to use the question technique, which is my source of motivation in all my researches. All of the questions also contain serious propositions. Since I will explain the subject on this main axis of Atatürk's nationalism, which is one of the cornerstones of the new Turkish state, I would first like to briefly explain Atatürk's understanding of nationalism. Conception of nationalism are influenced and shaped by the geography, social and historical backgrounds, and cultural codes of the geography. Atatürk's understanding of nationalism was also shaped under the influence of the nationalism movements that existed in the West until the beginning of the 20th century, under the influence of the cultural, historical, political, and military developments of the Ottoman Empire, and as much as his personal observation, experiences, education, and abilities allowed. In the second half of the 19th century, the common aim of Westernism, Islamism, Ottomanism, and Turkism movements, the principle of which were determined and followed by the Ottoman intellectuals, was the strength in the Ottoman state, which lagged behind Western countries in every respect, suffered successive military and political defeats and whose borders were shrinking due to territorial losses, and to return it to its former bright and glorious day. It was also to put an end to the revolts started by ethnic elements, first in the Balkans and in the Arab geography. However, as a result of the developments, first Westernism, then Islamism and Ottomanism lost their importance and only Turkism remained. The turning point was the Balkan Wars of 1912 to 1930. Especially for the members of the Union and Progress, the defeat in the Balkan Wars was a great trauma, and its effects would continue for years. In fact, 1930 can be defined as a breaking point for Turkish nationalism. At the same time, this date marks the beginning of both the national economic policy and the anti-Muslim sentiment of the Committee of Union and Progress. Turkish nationalism, the principles of which were determined by Ottoman intellectuals and especially Ziya Gökalp during the Ottoman period, was reactionary. Gökalp's Turkism was built on the basis of unity of ethnicity and religion. That is, the unity of those of Turkish origin who were Sunni Muslims. Gökalp included non-Muslims in this system after a while. However, the condition for their inclusions was their conversion. The millet system in the Ottoman Empire defined religious communities. The Turkish War of Independence is the story of the realizations of the national self, of the transformation from Ottoman subjects to the Turkish nation. Because of this grand transformation, every movement, every step taken, every initiative started under Atatürk's leadership has been pronounced with an adjective, national. On the other hand, the Turkish War of Independence is also the eve of the construction of a new state. Here, a geography with national borders, the homeland and the bonds of citizenship are underlined. The common values of Atatürk's nationalism are defined by Atatürk as national unity, national feeling, and national cultural consciousness. However, these values are subjective. Therefore, it is inevitable that many intellectuals will attach different meanings to these values over time. Moreover, it's not surprising. It is therefore useful to express its meaning. A nation is a people who have lived together within the same geographical boundaries for centuries, who have shared sorrows and joys together for centuries, who have made sacrifices together when necessary, and who have developed a common culture over the centuries. This is essentially the valid definition. The influence of Ernest Renan's idea is clearly visible in Atatürk's definitions. The Turkish nation and the Turkish state are created through the institution of citizenship, which is built on a common history, common language, common geography, common culture, equal rights, and equal obligations. Underlined in Atatürk's definition, the people of Turkey who founded the republic are called the Turkish nation, are those who actually contributed to the establishment of the republic, those who participated in the Turkish War of Independence, those who contributed in kind and materially to the struggle, and those who founded the republic through consensus and sweat of their brow. These words also emphasize the unity of faith, destiny, sorrow, and ideal. The people referred to here are not those born to Muslim, Sunni, or Turkish parents. Therefore, Atatürk's definition of nation is different from Ziya Gökalp's definition of nation. Unlike Gökalp, he does not discriminate between religion and race. a clear physical reflection of Atatürk's definition of nation and nationalism can be seen in the establishment of the Faculty of Language and History and Geography at Ankara University. The name of the faculty evokes Atatürk's definition of nation, language, history, and geography. Therefore, within this system, the Jews living in Anatolia should be Turkish citizens with equal legal rights and fulfill their citizenship obligations on equal terms with other Turkish citizens. This is the meaning we derive from all Atatürk's descriptions of nationalism. Let us now take a look at how Turkish Jews behaved during the War of Independence and during the stages of the new Turkish state and what they have experienced since the first years of the Republic. During the War of Independence, Jews in the unoccupied provinces, like other non-Muslims, were conscripted into the army and served the Turkish army in labor battalions. It's also known that they contributed to the War of Independence. After the liberation of Izmir from Greek occupation starting in 1922, the Hanoten Tefila, which emphasized loyalty to Mustafa Kemal Pasha, began to be recited in Izmir synagogues. It's likely that the same tefillah was recited in synagogues in other cities liberated from occupation. The first agricultural school of the New Turkey was founded in December 1922 on the fields of the Alliance Agricultural School in Bornova, Izmir, Bornova Regional Agricultural School. In the new school, the equipment, textbooks, curricula, and retrospective reports of the former Alliance Agricultural Farm School were shared with the authorities by local Jews. In 1933, this school was transformed into Bornova Numune Agricultural School and in 1955 into the Faculty of Agriculture at Ege University. In 1940, I believe that the program of the village institutes, the educational system of the institutes, and the methods used were prepared by drawing on the experience of the Alliance and Jewish Colonization Organization agricultural farm schools. The Jews who contributed to the Turkish delegation at the Lausanne Conference through Chief Rabbi Naum Efendi waived the provisions of the conference that granted them privileges in family law. They demanded to become Turkish citizens without privileges. During the first Turkish Economic Congress held in Izmir, there was a close relationship and mutual visits between Turkish Jews and the leadership of the War of Independence. Have there been deviations from Atatürk's nationalism? If so, what was the breaking point? I would like to draw your attention to the 1923 Izmir Economic Congress, because the breaking point was the Izmir Economic Congress. At the Congress, 1,135 delegates from 4 different professional groups, farmers, merchants, industrialists, and workers, worked commissions. Each professional group insisted that the demands and proposals of its own segment be accepted unchanged. However, it's not possible to read the discussions, objections, and proposals in the meetings because the official meeting minutes are missing. The best known thing about the Economic Congress is the Principles of National Economy, published in 12 articles. From the perspective of Turkish Jews, the developments that took place after the Izmir Economic Congress are reminiscent of the period when the Committee of Union and Progress was in power. Between 1908 and 1913, the relations between the Committee of Union and Progress and the Jewish community were warm and cordial. Within the national vision of the Unionists, which was built on anti-Muslim sentiment, Jews were excluded from the national economic policy implemented as of 1930. Thus, Jews became aware that the anti-Muslim sentiment of Unionists included Jews as well. It's possible to observe the same panorama after the Izmir Economic Congress. After the proclamation of the Republic, the community structure of the Jews, who had the identity of Turkish citizens in the new Turkish state order, underwent radical changes. In the meantime, the use of all foreign languages other than Turkish was banned, including private conversations. According to a new law, every Turkish citizen would receive a Turkish surname. In the beginning, during the establishment stages of the national state, a number of difficulties and contradictions were faced. The population was not ethnically homogeneous. There was no common language or even a common dialect. However, language unity was paramount and linguistic unity. Language has the function of the glue of the Turkish nationalism. Jews, true writers and jurists such as Moïse Cohen, Abraham Galante, and Gad Franco enthusiastically wrote articles and books defending Turkish nationalism and the need to speak Turkish. It must have been a great social trauma for the Jewish community to face religious and ethnic discrimination while trying to adapt to all the legal changes that took place. After the Izmir Economic Congress, the series of events that led to the disappointment of Turkish Jews began with the nationalization of banks and railways and the state monopolization of consumer goods such as sugar, paper, and glass. Afterwards, non-Muslim civil servants working in these sectors were dismissed without any notice or severance pay. Jews were also among the civil servants. It was during this period that rumors started to underline the difference in faith and ethnicity between Muslim Turks and Jews. Muslim Turks merchants were uncomfortable with the economic activity of Turkish Jews. According to the rumors, after 1922, Jews became rich after occupying the economic sectors vacated by Greeks and Armenians. Could these rumors reflect the truth, or was the national economic policy and the attempt to create a Muslim Turkish bourgeoisie which began to be implemented after the Izmir Economic Congress disturbed by the Jewish presence? This needs to be questioned. Another issue that reflects the discrimination of ethnicity and religious beliefs in the country is that non-Muslims and those married to non-Muslims were not allowed to rise above a certain rank in the Turkish army. In fact, the army and education activity are two important institutions. They play an important role in the consciousness building of Turkish nationalism. Is this restriction on service in the Turkish army, which is also responsible for the security of the country and its citizens, and indications that the Turkish state discriminates between ethnic and religious beliefs? Or is the reason for this practice that existence, well-being, and continuity of the state taken precedence over Turkish citizens? It should be pondered and questioned. In the Turkish tradition, the state is important. The existence of legitimate state is paramount. Therefore, the indispensable principle of the new Turkish state must be the preservation of state authority. In fact, Turkish nationalism started to be constructed by the state itself. The nationalism movement that started with the War of Independence came under the state hegemony after the Lausanne Conference under the Izmir Economic Congress. Its name is official nationalism. Thus, the construction of a nation turned into a nation built by the state. Therefore, the nation must also have a mission of meeting the needs of the national state, because the interests of the state are paramount and prioritized. Then let us ask, what is the state prototype of Turkish citizen? According to state officials, does the individual with Jewish religious beliefs and Jewish ethnicity fit this prototype, or is it appropriate? Does the individual with Jewish ethnicity and Jewish faith contradict the interests of the state with these characteristics? Is the criterion of trustworthiness in the eyes of the state only being born to Turkish parents and being a Sunni Muslim? If these criteria are used as the criteria of trustworthiness, has a correct choice been made? This should be questioned. Throughout the history of the Republic, have the state's effort at identification and speciation in the name of creating a nation reached the stage of ethnic cleansing through forced migration, or has it not? This must be questioned. Has a state prototype of this Turkish citizen been exploited by a group, a caste, a community to ensure their economic and political interests? Or is the prototype draft susceptible to abuse? If there is a risk of abuse, how can this risk be eliminated? It should be questioned. During the Republican era, there are very many events that offended the Turkish Jewish community, such as Ezmir incidents, Citizens Speak Turkish propaganda, the Trace incident, etc. All of them has been the subject of articles and books by many researchers and historians. One of the motivational tools used in nationalist propaganda is the traitor's betrayal. The other is the hero's stories of victory. However, the use of these models for motivational purposes is extremely inconvenient and even extremely dangerous, because it runs the risk of pitting communities that have lived in solidarity, friendship, and peace for centuries against each other and even making enemies. According to sociologist John Hobson, the currents of nationalism that emerged after the 1870s were characterized by a patriotism that had an absolute suspicions, even hatred towards those who were not part of it, and considered itself more valuable as a nation. This patriotism almost reveals the cynical spirit of modern imperialism. Does 19th and 20th century nationalism then have weaknesses that are open to exploitation? It should be questioned. Citizenship is established through a legal contract between the state and its citizens. This contract is similar to a marriage contract. Both contracts are voluntary. Both parts commit to be bound until death, as long as they so desire. After both contracts, one part is registered in the other's identity catalog. Both joys, pains, gains, losses are shared. At this point, what needs to be questioned is the following. In the institutional marriage proposed by the patriarchal social structure, the woman is at risk of accusation of betrayal at any moment. Mostly she is obliged to prove her trustworthiness, honor, morality, and loyalty. She is forced to live under the identity and influence of her husband, compromising her identity and personality. She is almost assimilated. It is worth asking at this point, is this contract, or are those contracts built and implemented on the principles on mutual trust and equality? It must be questioned. Today, I'm of the opinion that the competent state authorities are maintaining relations with the Turkish Chief Rabbinate and Turkish Jewish community on the basis of mutual respect, equality, and trust. In fact, in the light of the information I have given at this point, it is the Muslim Sunni Turkish community itself that should make these inquiries. I would like to greet and thank esteemed guests and colleagues who have listened to me patiently.
Thank you very much, Professor Bora. המרצה השני שלנו במושב הזה הוא פרופסור זקי שלום מאוניברסיטת בן גוריון בנגב. פרופסור